Good morning, it's the 7th of December 2025 and you're very welcome back. As you can see, we have 12,100 subscribers. That's a lot for a farmer with cows, and I got over 14,000 views on the Ivana Banchik politician. And really what I'm about is I must be a bit of an influencer, and I'm also pointing out some of the total conflicts and hypocrisy of what's been said by our political classes, and nobody seems to be able to challenge them on this. Anyway, you know, I'm no friend of wind energy. If I could find a way to generate electricity without burning coal, oil and gas or nuclear fuel, I'd have it invented years ago. I had a wind turbine in the 1970s when nobody had it, and even as children we had a tree house and a wind turbine working it, and there was some light and we could read the comics and the Beano, but it wasn't a success. So one of the things here we have is the Irish Daily Mail. I mentioned about all this offshore. There's something here now. Just remember the context. I say there should be an SEA, a strategic environmental assessment carried out on all government plans and programmes, including housing, carried out by engineers with public participation and the right to take judicial reviews. But the Irish government, the British government, when they were in the EU, and the European governments refused to comply with it. And it's a struggle to try and force them to comply, and that's a breach of the law. There should be a strategic assessment for big plans and programmes funded by the government. Now, what this here is in the Irish Daily Mail on Saturday the 6th of December. 6th of December. Don't start giving out to me for buying the paper. Look, it's an important piece of news. Potential to develop energy off the coast is far lower than believed, as large swaths of our waters are simply not suitable. Potential to develop energy off the coast is far lower than believed, as large swaths of our waters are simply not suitable. Offshore wind hopes fall flat. All the hype there has been, and all the quasi-advertising, free advertising to promote this in the public view, has resulted in the highest electricity prices in the world, the decimation of Europe's industries, and its complete impotence at putting up any kind of a battle, even if there was a Russian threat, due to this nannyism. And this renewable energy and climate change is nannyism. It's nanny women. Not all women are nanny, it must be said. No way. But enough of them are, and they're in positions of power. They were represented by the American Democratic Party, the Irish Labour Party, Sinn Féin, Fianna Gael particularly, and Fianna Fáil to a slightly lesser extent. The British Labour Party, all the European parties in Spain, except Italy, and the Germans and the French Macron, all mad nanny state wokers with their DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion. That's all that's in their heads. And now they're faced with trying to take 180 billion of Russian assets, and the internet and the world financial system is up in the air. There is pandemonium among investors over putting money in anything in Europe because they'll seize it at the first opportunity. So what does this say? Now bear in mind, we already have about 4,100 megawatts of onshore wind in Ireland. It's proven very difficult. It's not saving fossil fuel. Sometimes it's given 60% of its output of the whole grid. Sometimes it's given nothing. And this has to be paid for in addition to the fossil fuel grid, and we're burning 56 lorry loads of diesel oil a day to keep the lights on because they didn't assess how the wind energy and the solar interacts with the grid. But now they want to put that much more off the coast. And imagine putting up those turbines off the coast. Imagine the cost. Every bit of that has to be clawed back through the electricity bill. And the people who invest are, one of them I identified is the Canadian Teachers Pension Fund. So the Canadian Teachers Pension Fund will give some money to build a turbine off the coast of Donegal, and we, the bill payer, have to pay for it. billions, driving electricity bills for a flat in Dublin, let's say, to somewhere in the region of €15,000 a year. That is the extravagance of this and the failure to assess it. So I'm going to read the article. It's by Craig Hughes, political editor. Ireland's potential to develop offshore wind energy is far smaller than initially believed due to large swaths of our waters being unsuitable, the Irish Mail can reveal. Now, maybe this is also a way out. If they were watching the farmer with cows, it might dawn on some of them. Some of them are thick as planks, but some of them, it might dawn on them. Hold on, so this is a complete cod. And if that's the case, they're not going to come along and say, we're dropping the whole thing. They'll come up with an excuse not to go ahead. Several of these offshores have been dropped. No one interested. No financial houses is offering to buy them or anything else. The Irish ESB is the only ones that agreed to pump in the money, and they're going not only providing it for Ireland, they want to produce it for France and everywhere else. The Irish ESB. At a time when the Sinn Féin Lynn Boylan wants taxpayer credits to pay the electricity bills, the ESB is trying to put up wind farms for France. For France. Right, confidential maps and an analysis paper provided to the Energy Minister Darragh O'Brien in May. There should be no confidential maps and no confidential analysis papers. That should be done under the SEA directive, openly, with public participation and the right to take judicial reviews to challenge the results. That's the law. And what have we here? Confidential maps. See, keep us in the dark. Give us the mushroom treatment. Keep the consumers in the dark and feed them plenty of manure. Isn't that what this essentially means? In May, warned that the depth of large parts of our seas, protected habitats, they've wiped out the grouse species, gone back to the Ice Age. The Irish red grouse is wiped out of the grouse moors, and 50,000 trout killed by the Derrybrine wind farm. Not one ever spoke about in the Dáil. Not one of 160 TDs. The large parts of our seas, protected habitats, grid limits and hazards such as shipwrecks, arms dumps. Apparently there's bombs, and there must be seal and the explosives is inside them. Imagine that. Didn't Hitler do some good at the end of the day? They're afraid to go down to dig it and blow them up. Imagine the health and safety statement. Great limits and hazards such as shipwrecks. Had to be big ships down there. Ships. I don't really buy it, so you can go one side of it. Arms dumps. Maybe that's where John de Chasselin's weapons went. Would that be what the peace process did? They used to say that they had dumps like silage pits and they filled them up with concrete. And it was supposed to have happened in the Cavan Monaghan area and up in Louth. But maybe it's what they dumped them into the sea. Arms dumps. And I tell you, I mean, weapons like guns and that wouldn't last under the sea. They'll rot away. Now, large grids limits. Now read that again. Given to him in May, that the depth of large parts of our sea protected habitats, grid limits and hazards such as shipwrecks, arms dumps and undersea cables are prohibiting factors. That should all be dealt with in the SEA. It is a scandal that there's no benefactor with a few euros and a bit of money, like Michael O'Leary or somebody else, wouldn't meet with me and we get a team of barristers on this. And I know the law and I have several friends. We'd give them a good run for the money on the SCA directive. And anyone that's facing wind farms, I can advise them the best way to go about challenging it. But it's €45,000 up front to take a judicial review. So now, It comes as the government struggles to meet its climate targets. So these windmills are going to save our climate targets. How are they going to do that? If you're burning 56 lorry loads of diesel oil every day and Eamon Ryan has to import 10 or 11 million euros worth of diesel engines to keep the lights on, how many more diesel engines and how much more lorry loads of diesel fuel will you need to keep these ones going? And how much electricity are they going to use on calm conditions? And there are calm conditions at the sea. Imagine putting them in and imagine servicing them. Imagine the cost and the bill, even for one of them, one turbine. So it comes as the government struggles to meet its climate targets, with new figures showing that Ireland's greenhouse gas emissions are the second highest per person in the European Union. Good, not half high enough. And if we're to pay our way, we'll have to be double. And what when the war has to be fought? Is there going to be any talk of emissions when they're fighting the Russians? How are they going to fly around? How are they going to include air nose exclusion zones? Is there not going to be fuel needed? Ireland has committed to halving. We'll go to page 2. It's committed. Isn't it easy commit? How many a man or woman made a commitment at the altar getting married? It didn't always last too long. When the bills come in the door, the love goes out the window. Now I don't want to be flippant about that. I say that just as an old saying. Oh, commit. Oh, we'll commit. Oh, and they've got tea, dinner, roast salmon, a starter, dessert, coffee, ice cream, tapioca, and then they signed up. Tony Blair went over for Britain to the EU, and he signed up for Britain's carbon, and he signed up an extra load of it. He said he'd take far more windmills. Now, emissions from 2018 levels by 2030. So they're going to have between 2018 and 2030, it's up, they're going. And the International Energy Agency has predicted a 40% increase on the use of fossil fuel. And the BRICS nations and the South Americans and the whole lot of them and the Chinese and them all, they're expanding their industry to beat the band. And the Europeans are facing starvation. They can't come up with 185 billion to give to Zelensky. So they're poor enough. It's a bit of money, but still it proves they're paupers. Gordon Brown sold all Britain's gold for I think it was £150 an ounce. £150. What this it was? £35 an ounce. About 2,000, roughly that amount. So now they promised to halve emissions. And we face fines of up to 20 billion if it fails to do so. So if the EU can fine Ireland 20 billion, why can't it fine every country? Because none of them are reaching it. And if there's 27 countries in the EU, there's more than enough to pay Zelensky. I have it solved straight away. You won't bait the farmer with cows. 20 billion. That's a good lump now for Zelensky. The 2021 Climate Action Plan committed to reducing emissions from electricity by between 65, and it's Eamon Cabbagehead Ryan, I think he was still in that time, Eamon Cabbagehead Ryan, he was, that thought up this. So he was the boy, when he got the pen out, he could fairly scribble. The 2020 Climate Action Plan committed to reducing emissions from electricity between 62 and 81%, with around 1/4 of this expected to come from decarbonising electricity via renewable energy, which means 56 lorry loads of diesel oil a day at least, and no reduction in fuel at all. None at all. And they're opening a terminal to bring in LPG gas from the United States, and Ursula von der Leyen agreed to buy $6 billion worth of American fossil fuel, which was over in Scotland. And they're going to decarbonise. Now, constructing offshore wind turbines has proven extremely challenging. It takes an average of 9 years for a turbine to make it through the planning process before construction even begins. And that's because it takes it 9 years because they short circuit the SEA process. If the SEA process was done, it couldn't be built at all, because I would be able to say they're net consumers of electricity. It's going to take with all the offshore wind that they're planning and onshore wind, we're talking something like 200 lorry loads of diesel oil every day, in addition to the ordinary. And I don't know, are they counting it or not? And the proof is they were buying the diesel engines. They bought them. The country, and it's Ryan bought them, Eamon Ryan, Cabbage Head. The country only has one offshore wind farm off Arklow in County Wicklow, but it is no longer producing electricity. So there you are, it's a failure. It's a failure. It's no longer producing energy, as the turbines have reached the end of their life. Did they ever produce anything? And there's the end of the life, and there's proof. What I'm saying, these cannot pay their capital cost over their lifetime, because they have a limited lifespan, even notwithstanding or not counting the planning term. End of the life, and it is due to be decommissioned. So what will happen, the one they build off Donegal? It'll have to be decommissioned too. So there's a limited lifestyle. So it's going to save the planet. In April, plans for a 30 wind turbines off the Galway coast were abandoned after 177 objectives were made to Bord Pleanála, now on Commission Pleanála. So they changed the name of Bord Pleanála to Commission Pleanála, and that's going to fix it. That's going to fix it. That's what they do in every review. Change the name of the entity responsible. It was one of six key projects earmarked by the government to effectively reduce emissions targets. They don't reduce emissions targets, they increase it, and increase dependence on fossil fuel. The government has targeted an additional 5 gigawatts of electricity by 2030 and 37 gigawatts by 2050. Now, why a gigawatt is 1,000 megawatts? I mean, I don't produce targets for myself like that. I just go out and I do my day's work. If I'm going to extend the shed or do something, I get on with it and try and get it done. Sometimes I get it done quicker. Sometimes there are hitches. It takes longer. But I'm realistic. These are happy talkers. That's all they are. All our eggs in this basket. A technical assessment commissioned by O'Brien initially found potential for 48 gigawatts outside of the legally binding SEA process. He didn't comply with that. However, the report published earlier this week found that just between 3 gigawatts and 18 gigawatts is a more realistic capacity. Social Democrats environmental spokesman Jennifer Whitmore. Who the hell is she? Jennifer Whitmore. Social Democrats. Oh, she's another Ivana Badgeek. White diversity, equity and inclusion. Tend to pay money to Hillary Clinton Foundation. Loves the Yankee Democratic Party. Kamala Harris. Oh, social. I don't exactly know where she is, but you'll find it's just like Dublin Bay South constituency. The paupers. They're like Charles Dickens and Oliver Twist. They're starving. They're starving in Dublin South so badly they have to elect Ivana Badgeek to pull them up and give them a bit of porridge and a few blankets. And this one here, Jennifer Whitmore, she's social, and Democrats. Oh, the Democrats. Well, Donald Trump is a democratically elected president, and they can't stick him. So why is it that he's not acceptable and he's democratically elected? Told the Mail she was surprised the detailed mapping exercise was only completed this year. Yeah, there's no reason to be surprised. You know damn well, or you should know, you're a legislator. The Article 3.2 of the SEA directive demands the proper assessment. So why are you bloody surprised? You donkey's backside, you. Given the looming deadline for meeting the climate targets, no country will meet them. They're only a fantasy. We are 4 years out from 2030, when 80% of our energy is meant to come from renewables. Not a hope in hell. It's crazy that we're now only identifying sites that aren't suitable, she said. It's not crazy. You should have, and your Social Democrats should have insisted compliance. You should have allocate money to NGOs that will fight this. You can give Oisín Coughlin of Friends of the Irish Environment, I think it's 600,000 or 700,000 euros a year, and I can get nothing to enforce the legally binding requirements of European law. Ms. Whitmore said the future planning for the economy has been based on an electrification of our economy. Yes, you need electricity. You need it, and that's it. And that all our eggs have now been placed in this basket. All right, I make the point. I'll grant her that. It's all on windmills, and now there's no windmills. She said the government allowed for all this unfettered growth of data centres on the basis that they are going to have all this renewable energy. So what are we going to do now? You should have complied with the SCA Directive Article 3.2, Miss Whitmore. And this would all have been assessed, and they couldn't build their data centres without it. But we hadn't the resources to challenge it in the courts and bring it all the case to the European Court of Justice. 30% of all energy use will be data centres by 2030. Damn well good enough. Serves you bloody right. And we won't have renewable energy to do that. And we'll see, will the owners of the data centres be able to command enough votes when they're starving and shivering with the cold? Because the ordinary people are the ones that will be freezing and starving. The data centres will get their energy. So will the people who are affected stop voting for bloody Social Democrats, bloody Labour, bloody Sinn Féin, the Sinn Féin and the Fine Gaelers and their electric cars boondangle? When are you going to realise that any engineer will tell you straight away you can't do this? This is a fantasy and a waste of our money. But will the people reject them? No, they won't. They'll bloody well vote for Matt Carthy here in Cavan and Monaghan. They'll vote for Pauline Tully that's in the Senate. They'll put her back in. Cathy Bennett. Oh, she'll free Ireland. Oh, they can get the Brits out now. And everyone else in. And Brendan Smith only can get elected. And Niamh Smith doesn't even have to go to the count. They'd knock you down going in to vote. You wouldn't want to be out on the road at all around East Cavan. Oh, she's lovely hairdo. Oh, God. And one lad told me I might be in there with a chance, you know. She's single again, you know. You wouldn't know. I'd give her a big vote. That's what we have in Ireland. The maps found that large areas of Irish seas are unsuitable for offshore energy due to the depth of the waters. My God Almighty, if you got a fishing boat and a lump of a lead weight and a big coil of fishing line and drop it down and mark it and take it up and measure it, you'd know the depth of the sea. Ye stupid shower of lugs. Stupid. Even sonar will tell you the depth of the sea. The fishing boats off the west coast had sonar years ago. And only now did they realise the water's just too deep. They think that the Irish continental shelf is going to be the right height for them so they can put the windmills down. Our existing hard infrastructure, such as cabling. It's littered with cables because we're the next parish to America. It's only natural we'll have cables flying over our back under the Atlantic. That's Valencia was doing that more than 100 years ago. Oh, there's cables. Oh, I never knew that. Oh, and they're very deep. Oh, it's deep. Oh, it's deep. Oh, it's deep. Oh, it's very deep. These are the gobshites that we have making our decisions. Mr. O'Brien, the Fianna Fáil TD for Fingal East, and that's a working class area. And they're freezing with the cold too. And the vote for, well, I can see, I suppose, that Fianna Fáil used to be a party that had some bit of wit, in fairness. Anyway, we'll see what they'll do next time. They won't vote for the Irish National Party or the Irish Freedom Party that would try and sort this out. No, and they wouldn't vote for Michael Leahy down in Limerick either. No. I'm a Fine Gael man. I vote for Fine Gael again. They're down to 17%. That's what we're dealing with in Ireland. Mr. O'Brien, the Fianna Fáil TD for Fingal East, was advised not to publish the detailed maps. That's illegal. Under the SCA directive, they have to be published, while the Marine Spatial Planning Programme is ongoing. See the illegality? Secrecy. A bit like Father Brendan Smith. This is our little secret. When he was raping the wee girls in the churches and in the priest's house, he was telling them, this is our little secret. See the wee secret, wee secret. Look at the contempt they have for the people. The maps are intended to provide an indicative evidence base for the Department of Climate, Energy and Environment, Marine Planning. Because I might put in an access to information for them. I might get them off them now, just wait till we see. Planning Unit. To commence the knowledge building process for future DMAPS, designated maritime area plans, the official wrote. Who's the official? The high-level analysis aimed at identifying and designating areas suitable for offshore development for fixed and floating wind technology areas were excluded as potential sites due to shipwrecks, munitions dumps, telecommunications cables and interconnectors, gas, oil exploration activity, traffic separation schemes, dredging and dumping sites. They're probably dumping the whole rubbish out of the country. That's probably all going. I'd say that a lot of the municipal waste is just dumped into the sea. I'd say a lot of those washing machines you see in the town dumps are being dumped into the sea. It wouldn't surprise me. Separation schemes, dredging, dumping sites, unexploded ordnance. Spanish Armada, they might have dumped a bit of gunpowder down there. And authorised agricultural sites. The East Coast is identified as being the most viable near-term option for fixed offshore wind development due to its proximity to demand centres and shorter transmission distances could reduce offshore infrastructure costs, making it practical choice for initial projects. Now, John Edgerton, a very famous engineer, wrote a book, The Wind Farm Scam, and he says that the offshore wind is not any better than onshore. It's because the distance in and scale building up on it and maintenance problems, and there's wind out. It's not as big a wind as you would think. And also, with an onshore, the base of the turbine is put on hard ground. With the offshore, it has to go way down to the sea. So the turbine could be 4 times the height you see over the sea, above sea level. The North Coast offers higher fixed offshore wind potential, but faces challenges due to expensive grid infrastructure needs, given its distance from the major demand centres or reliance of new flexible demand systems such as hydrogen electrolysers. Do you hear this baloney? Hydrogen electrolysers. What a crowd of dopes. Hydrogen can't work. The Celtic Sea has been largely addressed under the South Coast Designated Maritime Area Plan for offshore wind progress, leaving fewer opportunities for deep-water fixed offshore wind projects. Smaller regions such as the southwest and northwest are constrained by size and proximity to shore. Potentially limiting their viability, although several smaller projects are possible. In relation to floating offshore wind, which can be used in waters too deep for fixed turbines, the report found that there was greater spatial flexibility due to the country's large area of deeper waters with the Celtic Sea. You imagine the cost of having a floating wind turbine and the anchoring of it. The most favourable region for commerce-scale floating projects. Fixed offshore wind technology is currently better established and more economic to implement, is therefore the best strategic option in the near term, they wrote, adding that scaling up floating options will be more viable once the market matures. It's not maturing very well. We have over 1/4 of all bill payers in the Irish Republic unable to pay their bills in arrears, looking for the charitable organisations to pay it. And this is what these mad loonies. It's a bit like Captain Cook. You know, when he discovered Australia. Oh, they want adventure. Oh, I'm adventurous. I'm going to go out off sea. Oh, my son. Oh, he's an engineer and he's going out to put up offshore wind turbines. Oh, what adventure. With their hands stuck deep in our pockets. The department spokesman said maximising offshore wind energy is a significant priority. We'll soon see. And the state has been accelerating policy in this area. Why don't they put the turbines up in the Dublin Mountains? What's wrong with Dunleary? The government has committed to achieving 20 gigawatts of installed offshore wind capacity by 2040. The last week, Minister O'Brien welcomed the provisional results of the state's second offshore wind auction under the Offshore Renewable Energy Support Scheme and the 9,000 Tonua site in Waterford. So that used the Irish language. Oh, that'll get us by, you know. Oh, they like that. As far as I understand, it's only the ESB that's doing it, the state. The result of the hugely competitive auction, nobody is bidding into it at all. Ofsted's gone wallop. I'll do another video, and they're all going burst because they can never pay their capital cost, has surpassed expectations with a renewable energy price secured at 98.71. So they've guaranteed them €98.71 per megawatt hour out of our pockets. So this is a big plus. Oh, they're giving them 98, whereas the ordinary gets about 70. It was 69 up to a few years ago for onshore wind. So the government simply comes along and says, we'll give you 100 there, 98 there. That's grand. They're not paying it. That's going to drive the bills up worse. It added, in September, the National DMAP must be a plan, proposal, and public participation statement. There is no public participation. The article of the SEA Directive, Article 3.2, specifically sets out Article 6 for public participation, and it's not done. There has to be a notice put in the paper. You have to have the right to make your submission, and your right to have it taken into account. This was all known 50 years ago. They tried to tell us they didn't know the depth of the water off the west coast. Was published. So, and the public participation statement was published. Yeah, they tell us what they're going to do. We're supposed to have a say. It is planned that the national DMAP will be adopted by the end of 2027, and over the coming decades, it will be one of the most significant infrastructure projects ever undertaken by the state. Right, folks, on 31 minutes. Have I explained that to you? Have I explained that to you? Darragh O'Brien. A Luthramon too. A Fianna Fáil idiot. And he knows about this. Breaking the law under the SEA directive, which is meant to allow for this to be done the proper way. And we are in a bad way for a benefactor to work with me and get this all up through the Irish courts and over to the European Court of Justice, where we force them to say yea or nay. We were promised the SEA directive as part of our environmental framework for the EU when we voted. And if they're going to deny it to us, it should be put to the court. If the court says no, you're wrong, well then the EU was a sham from the go. But no one ever challenged it that far up to the court in the main. It was challenged in Belgium for the renewable energy guidelines to guide where they go, and the European Court overwhelmingly found it was a plan or programme required in a full SCA, and has stopped the whole racket in Belgium for now. We'll see you back soon, folks. Sorry for such a long video. That'll do me for today. I think we'll leave it. Thank you very much. Good luck and thank you.